Ready? All right. Well, it's good to be playing back at home again this week. I think after going on the road, we had some questions with a young team, how they would respond, and I was pleased with the way we started the game. I thought we came out and played with some intensity and focus early on offense and defense. We lost our intensity or focus there a little bit at the end of the first half, came back and reestablished in the third quarter, and then at the end of the game with the reserves, I wasn't particularly happy with the way some of those guys played. So all in all, it was a good win to go on the road and get to 2-0, and the competition level will ratchet up again this week. We have a 2-0 Kansas coming in who beat us a year ago in Lawrence, and I think they're a better team right now than they were then. So still got a lot of work to do, and hopefully we can continue on the progression of getting better. That's kind of what our goal is, try to get better each week. So with that.
You talked about the play of the reserves. Were there any reserves that played well enough to catch your eye?
Well, it depends. I guess it would all go into who you count as reserves. Some of the guys who were playing at the end, play a lot of times during the regular games. But off the top of my head, I can't think of anybody who went in that I thought executed it at the level that we're looking for with everything involved. There were some guys who played hard but didn't always do everything the right way.
Was it more, you touched on a little bit, was it effort versus execution, or both lacking in some instances, or how would you?
Well, sometimes it's hard to play with great effort if you're not sure what you're doing. I think it goes hand in hand, and I think it starts with preparing like you're going to be a starter and getting ready to play. And it's just, you go in and you play a game fairly, you start out and you're playing fairly well, and you want to take everybody out and give guys a chance to play, but they just muddy the thing up. And if they continue to muddy it up, they're not going to get to play. It's not fair to the guys who work hard and bust their tail for those guys to go in and fumble the ball or can't stop the other team or do the kind of things that just make you scratch your head. It's one thing if they're getting lined up right and doing the right thing and they can't move the ball. It's another thing if they're not. And the same thing on defense. It's one thing if you're doing your assignments and know what you're responsible for. It's another thing if you just line up and run around blocks.
How would you assess Tevin's performance the last couple of weeks and where he's at now as opposed to preseason?
Tevin Washington?
Yes, sir.
I think Tevin played well last week against Middle Tennessee. He had the one time the ball was out when he tried to pull it and lost control of it. But he ran the offense fairly efficiently. He's thrown the ball. He's given guys a chance to make a play. He had a couple of underthrows, but at least he gives the guys a chance to make a play. And he worked on a lot of his problems he had the week before, so he did a better job in that area. So I think he got better last week.
Last week, and actually in both weeks, especially last week though, you managed to have a long 19-play drive, and you've also been able to hit on big plays. How satisfying was it for you to hit on the big plays? What's been the key to the big plays? And just, I guess, two questions about the long drives, being able to work a long drive out.
Well, I think big plays, contrary to popular opinion sometimes, the nature of what we do lends itself to big plays. It's not 3 yards in a cloud of dust, I think. And you have to give the individual kids a lot of credit. They made the plays. But you're going to get put in space in one-on-one situations a lot. And you're going to get some favorable matchups at receiver at times. And I think that's what's happened on a couple of the big plays. We've been fairly adept through the years of going on some long drives and time-consuming. When you run the ball as much as we do, sometimes you're going to have long drives. I think it's always good that you can execute at a level to where you don't screw yourself up before you get down there. Sometimes that's hard. Somebody will make a mistake or a penalty or do something to get you behind, and we didn't do that on those long drives.
What's the biggest difference this year to last year with Stephen Hill?
Well, I think Stephen's grown up a lot, matured. He worked hard during the summer, and I think he's got all his personal life in order, and I think he's committed to playing. Stephen's always had a lot of ability, and I think a lot was probably put on him a year ago, maybe unfairly. I don't know that he was ready for it, and he didn't start out well, and it just kind of nosedived. And I think his confidence is up. He's worked hard, and to this point, hopefully he can continue to produce the way he has.
Was there a point in the offseason where you were starting to see a different Stephen and had some amount of confidence that you'd see that?
Well, Stephen had to make some decisions. I mean, he had to get himself squared away. I think he's committed himself to working hard and going to school and doing all those things that he needed to do to get squared away. And I think he's grown up. It's like sometimes we forget that these guys are just kids. They have to grow up and mature. And I think that's starting to happen for him now, maybe a little more than early.
What's the most vivid impression or memory you have of the Kansas game last year?
Oh, I don't know. The end of the game with them taking a knee in victory formation. I remember that.
Paul, there's several of the big kind of interconference, between other BCS conferences. You guys are one of them. Do you guys still feel like that these are important games to sort of, I don't know if you're trying to prove yourself in the ACC, but you still, I'm sure, hear all the time, a basketball conference, that sort of thing. Is this a big weekend? Do you guys kind of uphold the conference honor or whatever you want to call it this week?
I guess it is. I think the media will make it a big weekend, and we don't talk about it a whole lot. I mean, we're trying to uphold Georgia Tech, and along with Georgia Tech comes the conference affiliation. But, our focus is not to represent the ACC this week, is to represent Georgia Tech and try to beat Kansas, who beat us a year ago.
You've mentioned the pass protection being better a few times. What is it specifically they're doing that's improved last year to this year?
Well, they're just protecting better. You got more time to throw. I think we're staying in front of people a little bit longer, and we tweaked the protection just a little bit, but it's not that much difference. To this point, we've done a better job. Now, again, the competition level is going to increase too, so we'll see if that continues.
Is the passing element just making that big of a difference in how Tevin's playing, or is it his confidence, or what do you see?
Well, I think probably we're making too big a deal out of the passing part of it. We're probably not throwing the ball any more than we threw it a year ago. We're just completing some. It's a lot more fun when you complete them. And I think the quarterback's having more of a chance to do that. And I've said all along that we need to be more efficient in the passing game, and to this point we've been more efficient. And if you do that, the nature of what we do will lend itself to some big plays in the passing game. And but it doesn't do any good to get behind people if you throw it over their head or don't catch them or can't get them off or whatever. And to this point, for the most part, when we've had a chance to make a big play, we've made them. And I think you get confidence from that. As a play caller, if you're not getting sacked every other time you throw, you may tend to throw it a little more and play to the strengths of your team.
Have you seen the defenses defend you a little bit different at all because of the passing success, or do you expect that to happen if you continue to have it?
No, not really. I mean, they're going to play the way they play. it's they catch up to you every year. So it's if we were struggling, the storyline would be they figured out what we were doing. They're not playing any different than they have played, and we'll see if we can continue to go at this pace as the competition level increases too.
Do you use this week to audition again for the kickoff job, or how do you approach that?
No, I don't think it's ever an audition. You try to practice, and whoever does the best in practice, you put out there and hope they'll perform in the game. I thought that Chandler had some nice kicks in the game from a location standpoint. I think he's capable. Right now, he's the kickoff guy until they beat him out. That's the way it works. When you lose the job, somebody else takes it, and you have to beat them out then. So we'll see if the guys this week can beat him out.
It seems like Quayshawn's a guy who's wasn't a starter but is really showing to be productive and that sort of thing so far. Is there anyone along those lines who's been a backup but really kind of demanded more playing time through the way he's played it in the?
Well, I think Quayshawn's gotten more playing time because we played more nickel last week. Again, I'm not sure people aren't making more out of that than is there. We didn't play very much base stuff at all until the second half defensively, and when we did, Daniel went back in and played. Quayshawn's on the nickel and dime team, and when you're playing a lot of that, he's going to get more reps. I think he can be a good player. We're excited about him. He's not where he needs to be, like a lot of our guys, so he's got to continue to work, and that was his first game of actually playing that many reps, and he didn't handle it particularly well in my mind.
Paul, do you ever get tired of answering the question, can we win with just a passing game?
No, not really. I mean, it's like anything else. If it's what you're not doing that people want to talk about. I can remember talking to June when he was in Hawaii, and after a couple years there, people complained that they didn't run the ball. So it's like whatever you're doing, there's always going to be a faction that wants you to do something else, and I really don't think it matters. I mean, the bottom line is, do you have more points than the other team at the end of the game? And you don't get any more for throwing than you do for running. When you cross the goal line, it counts the same. So, actually, if you're trying to win the game, which is better, a one-play 77-yard drive or a 19-play 98-yard drive that eats 8 minutes? I bet you the guys on defense would vote for the second.
Coach, just briefly, when you look at Kansas and you put the tape in, is it personnel-wise any different team that you were looking at last year?
A lot of the same guys are back. There is some different personnel, but I think they're bigger and probably more physical and stronger. They've got some new guys as well. They've got a bevy of running backs, some new guys there. Their quarterback, I think, is markedly better than he was a year ago, as you would imagine after playing. And they're a little bit more physical. They've given up some junk yardage on defense at the end of the first game, just like we did with some of the reserves that kind of skewed their stats a little bit. And but they'll hit you and they run around, so they're a very formidable opponent, I think.